many associate her name to global adoption and being the mother of her adopted children, Maddox, Pax, and Zahara. While I applaud her achievements in the world of adoption, I believe she only shows one type of it. All of her children are the children of closed adoptions. In a closed adoption, the children and adoptive parents do not know the birth parents. I come to you today to show a different type of adoption that I think you all find interesting to know about. It is the process of an open adoption. In this type of adoption, the children and adoptive parents know the birth parents and are in contact with them. I know because I'm the child of an open adoption and I have a wonderful relationship with my birth mother. I hope to clear up any misunderstandings one may have about adoptions and share some information about both types, but I'll be focusing on the process of open adoption. First, I will talk about closed adoptions, the more widely known of the two types. Next, I will talk about open adoption and give some examples. And finally, I will conclude with explaining what it was like to grow up as a child of an open adoption. Many people do not know about adoption, even closed. I think it may be beneficial to share some basic information about closed adoptions before moving on to the other type. According to sharedjourney.com, a site that specializes in giving information about adoptions, closed adoptions began in the late 19th century and were popular until the early 1980s. They were popular because they allowed protection for both parties. In a closed adoption, there's no contact before, during, or after the adoption, and there's no identifying information given out. Everything is sealed in private records that only the adoption agency has a hold of. Although we know there are two types of adoption, closed adoption and open adoption, there are also two subtypes of closed adoption. There's a fully closed adoption where no contact or identifying information is given out, and the birth parents select the adoptive parents. And there is a semi-closed adoption where there's partial confidentiality and the birth parents can select the adoptive parents if they choose to do so. But after the process, there's no more contact between parties. An example of a celebrity in a closed adoption is Broadway star and recent Glee guest star Kristen Chenoweth. In her memoir titled A Little Bit Wicked, she talks about her adoption and how she admires her birth mother even though she's never met her. Before I talk about open adoption, I'd like to share an anonymous quote from the adoption site adoptionopen.org. It reads, "We wanted to do a domestic open adoption so our daughter could know her birth family. Our daughter's birth mother chose not to abort her. How could we choose to abort our daughter's birth mother from our lives?" Secrecy is not conducive to a healthy adoption, and children are always curious about their identity and roots. This is not a problem in the increasingly popular open adoption. And this type of adoption began in the late 1980s because of adoptees' curiosity about their identity. In this type, birth parents choose and communicate openly with the adoptive parents during and after the process. After the initial adoption, parties remain in contact and communicate through phone calls, letters, emails, or even visits to each other, as well as through social networking sites like Facebook. This helps adoptees maintain healthy relationships with their biological parents and find out more about their roots. Again, there are two subtypes of open adoption, fully open and semi-open, according to sharedjourney.com. In a typical fully open adoption, parties communicate openly before and after the process. Adoptive parents are selected by the birth parents, and this allows adoptees to build relationships with their biological parents. In a semi-open adoption, birth parents may choose or allow the agency to choose for them based on certain criteria. They may or may not meet with the adoptive parents before, but they still communicate with the adoptee, mostly through calls and letters, and they typically do not visit. And an example of a semi-open adoption was seen on 16 and Pregnant, and this couple, Caitlin and Tyler, gave their daughter Carly up for adoption, and it was a semi-open adoption. While I shared information about the adoption process, I think it might help illustrate open adoption. While I've shared information about the process of open adoption, it might help to give a first-hand account. So, as some of you may know from previous speeches I have given, I am the child of a fully open adoption. I was adopted along with my twin brother at Balboa Naval Hospital in San Diego, California, 3 days after my birth on May 27, 1991. I was one of the first open adoptions to take place. My birth mother, Sherry Anderson, seen here with my mom at an adoption conference and here with me during one of her visits. My birth mother, Sherry Anderson, gave my brother and I up for adoption because she knew she didn't have the money to take care of us. Her boyfriend left her a couple months into the pregnancy, and she knew she could not provide the life she would have wanted for us. My parents, Rosie and David Burr, met Sherry 7 months into her pregnancy through the Children's Home Society, and they hit it off right away. Sherry knew that the couple would be the parents of her children. Since I'm the child of an open adoption, Sherry has just been another member of our family for my entire life. She is my birth mother, and my parents are my parents. It's as simple as that. Since my adoption, Sherry has married and now has 2 boys, Noah and Nick. They are my half-brothers who I see whenever we visit each other. Some kids don't understand a situation and ask, well, which mom do you like better? These ignorant questions bother me, but ultimately fuel me to give out more information about the topic and to speak at adoption conferences. I'm going to wrap it up and leave you with a bit of information from my speech concerning the types of adoption and open adoption. Although I believe all types of adoption are beautiful processes, I think more can be learned from open adoption and how they bring people together. I not only have a family, but I have a birth mother and her family, and they all understand our adoption and care about my brother and I dearly. There are fully and semi-closed adoptions and fully and semi-open adoptions. I'm the child of a fully open adoption. I have a deep connection with my birth mother and my 2 younger half-brothers, and I enjoy sharing my type of adoption with people because it's such a new development. I'm going to leave you with an anonymous quote from a birth mother concerning giving her child up for a fully open adoption. It's from adoptionquotes.org, and it reads, "It was so important to me, my selection of the family I had chosen for my baby, that if for any reason they would have not been able to adopt her, I would have kept her. The couple I chose was the perfect fit, and anyone else would have been second choice. I wanted more for my daughter than second best."